It seems like a trick question, but it's really not. What people group has 2.5 billion people, its own form of governance, but has no elections, and has its own world currency, well, at least in the creation? Welcome to Leading Leaders Podcast, 5-minute videos, 5 days a week. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast. It's amazing in our economy today and in the way that our world is structured that we have so many different forms of government literally all over the world, from the way far left end to the way far right end. And I remember Mr. Yanta in my high school government classes saying, just understand it's a circle. So the far left and the far right really eventually meet in the middle. And it's really hard to tell. Others have said that the left wing and the right wing are still attached to the same bird. And so there are political spectrums and there are political differences, far left and far right, and somewhere in the middle, and somewhere where you can't tell right from left because they've overlapped each other yet again. And yet amid all of those, there are those little fiefdoms that rise up. And, you know, the drug cartels in Mexico and Colombia, they had this really unique knack. I've watched videos both on El Chapo and on the drug cartels of Colombia in the late 70s and 80s, and they both had one unique feature, and that was that whenever they realized they were about to run afoul of the local government, of local security forces, they would put out a whole outlay of cash into the local community. They would build schools, they would pay for housing, they would pay for new agricultural crops and things of this nature, so that the community immediately around them held them in high esteem. In fact, to this day, there are people who still worship El Chapo and his family. Worship El Chapo and his family. And that's a frightening thing when you think about the number of people who died due to drug overdoses and the people who were killed in the drug trade because of the amount of smuggling that took place into the country. Now, some would say, well, you just need to legalize the drugs because obviously that's the problem. Well, you might not know, I just watched a documentary last night with my wife, one of her choosing, believe it or not, about the avocado. And did you know that some of the same problems around the drug cartels happen with avocados? It's not the product, it's the process. The local governments realized how much money could be made by exporting avocados from Mexico and Chile. And the result was guns came in to protect the avocado, and money came in to protect the avocado, and money came in because a lot of money could be made in avocado. In fact, at one point it was estimated that the nation of Chile in one community raised $150 million a year selling avocado. One for not cocaine, not marijuana, avocado. That's a legal substance. You can buy it anywhere in the world. I mean, my 5-year-old could go into the grocery store and buy avocados. There's nothing illegal about that. But it is its own economy. And because it is its own economy, it has created its own security infrastructure. And because it's created its own security infrastructure, the way that it's led, the way that it's managed looks very much like drug dealers. They give a lot of money to the community around them so that they protect themselves against these nefarious actors and against local governments. And yes, in the cities in Chile where avocados are king, the local security forces of the plantations of avocado dominate law enforcement, dominate local government, just like the drug lords did, just like the Sinaloa cartel did. Let that sink in for a minute. And then realize that last week, Mr. Z gave $1 billion, I believe it was, to housing. Promised to pay for housing for a large number of people. And this week, he's in our nation's capital talking about creating his own global currency. Now, here's the difference. These little communities where the Sinaloa cartel operated, where the cartels of Colombia operated, 20, 30,000 people. not a whole lot of political will or political force behind 20 or 30,000 people. That's why you have to have so many guns to be able to secure your governance, to secure your leadership, to secure your right to rule. Mr. Z, on the other hand, has a population base of 2.5 billion. And they're in all walks of life and in all levels of income and in all geographic nations on the earth. And they don't have to have a security force because they have a delete button. They don't have to hunt you down and assassinate you in the middle of the night. They can simply delete your profile and impact your income. They can change the way people perceive, the way you think, by only promoting certain parts of what you've said. When it comes to leadership, there's a way to build relationship with people that it doesn't require manipulation, but it includes building of trust. It includes building of relationships. It includes gaining buy-in because you all have a similar agenda moving in the same direction. And frankly, that's been a little vague. But you're looking at me, probably right now in this live video, through the lens of a global corporation with more buying power than many nations on earth. And yet its governance has no electoral process. Its governance has no oversight larger than it is in economy, in scale, in numbers, in influence. Think about that from a leadership perspective and the impact that has on your daily life. I'm Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.